3-4 years still for our industry to recover. I think they've earmarked the year 2023, maybe 2024, for a full recovery in terms of arrivals. I have to say that we in Cyprus see something along those lines too. I like to describe 2021 as a bridge year between the disaster of 2020 and the beginning of the recovery, which is 2022. So I don't like to discuss 2021 as the beginning of the recovery. I still think that we are a bit in between a disaster year, as I said, in 2020, and a year in 2022 where things are going to look a bit more stable, because let's be honest, we see that we are in the middle of a third wave. There's still a lot to happen. Progress of vaccines is basic at best. So this is going to be another year which is going to be challenging for all of us. We need to make sure that businesses remain alive. And what is a certainty, and I'm excited to hear from both of you going forward, is that when the full recovery comes to us in a few years, tourism is going to look different. And one of the segments which is going to look completely different to the past is the segment that we're going to be discussing today. So I'm very excited to hear your feedback and your thoughts about that. Now, with regards to Cyprus, I have to say that we've done an absolutely incredible amount of work in order to be open for travel since the 1st of March. We are the first and one of the very, very few, I think, countries in the Mediterranean and also in Europe now that is open for tourism. We have opened to the EU on the 1st March, and we have opened to some additional markets outside the EU on 1st April. When I say open, I don't mean open with quarantines or things like this. We have guaranteed to around 60 source markets that they will be able to fly without stoppages in their flight schedules and without quarantines. So if you come from one of these 65 countries, you will never be forced into quarantine. You just need to have the tests which are related to the country category you come from. We have a traffic light system, green, orange, red. If you're coming from a green country, no tests are required. If you're coming from an orange country, you need a PCR test 72 hours before flying. And if you are coming from a red category country, you need a double test. That means a PCR test before flying and another one upon arrival. So this for us is really, really important. And I wish more countries would come out and support a system like this, because travel and tourism cannot continue or cannot even restart if we're talking about quarantines, if we're talking about shutting down countries from one day to the next. So we wanted to create this framework in order to create a safe sort of environment of stability for airlines, tour operators, and our partners abroad. Our industry is not a button that you press and all of a sudden it happens. It needs advanced planning. It needs advanced discussions. And we could not be talking about tourism this year without having a framework in place which would offer this type of safety and stability. We did not sit down and wait for decisions from other EU governments. We decided to go ahead, irrespective of what is going to happen in the end in terms of the vaccination certificate, in terms of the green pass. Those are fantastic ideas. When they arrive, we would bring them on board. But we wanted that to only be a cherry on the top of our cake. We wanted to open travel to anybody as long as they have the relevant tests, no matter how many variants their country has, no matter how many deaths or COVID cases. So even if there is only one person, let's say in Greece or in Germany, who doesn't have the virus, we wanted that person to be able to prove that they don't have it and fly to Cyprus. So as a short introduction, I think I will stay at that. The main message I wanted to give: Cyprus is open, has been open since the 1st of March. And the basic principles of how we opened and the thinking behind it is what I already spoke about in the last few minutes.
Thank you, Minister. That's great to hear. And you can see the leadership of Cyprus in bringing forward tourism to the next stage. Of course, there are a lot of questions about risk and all the measures that you're taking in terms of your resilience, in terms of being able to actually dealing with all the eventualities. But Cyprus so far has been quite good in managing COVID, and we've seen that in a lot of your results. And we hope that you'll be able to manage all the situation and what's happening in the future. I guess everybody is desperate to develop tourism, and I know that many organizations, and particularly on islands that they are so much dependent on tourism, are very, very keen to develop tourism. Would you like to say a little bit of your risk planning and your and the things that support your decision? Because I know a lot of other ministers are listening to you, and a lot of other countries are listening to you, and they're thinking, should we go that way? And I bet that there are a lot of things on the background that help you develop those.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dimitrios, for this question. You know, contrary to what many people think, this is not a move of desperation. Let me tell you that the contribution of tourism to Cyprus GDP indirectly and directly is around 20%. But despite the pandemic, we dropped last year by 5% only in GDP. So make no mistake, this is not about desperation. This is only about facilitating this industry, which needs facilitation to restart. And we used data to come where we are today. First of all, we had a similar system in place last year, and the positivity rate at the airport, meaning from locals coming back from holidays abroad, but also from visitors coming to Cyprus on holiday, was 0.13%, which is lower than the positivity rate at many countries in the EU right now. And the reason why we had such a low positivity rate was the fact that we were requesting a PCR test prior to flying. Most of the countries in the EU last year, they enabled travel without any tests. Fair enough, that was a decision. But we made testing compulsory since last year, and this gave us the opportunity to have data to take an extra step for this year. So our last year's decisions, which led to the strictest travel protocol in the EU, meant that we had a lot of data in place to go a step forward and do something a little bit more outgoing and customer-friendly this year round. So this is a very, very important statistic that was important for us, and maybe it's going to be useful for others too. Now, in terms of, that's the risk side. Obviously, some people will test positive when they are at the destination, when they arrive in Cyprus or a few days later. So we have taken out the risk of that by the destination protocols, which now is common practice. Everybody has them. Even if you are negative, even you have your test, etc., you still need to follow protocols like social distancing, mask wearing at the moment, etc. But I think the most important element of our strategy is that we have availed quarantine hotels for anybody who is a close contact of somebody who has tested positive. I'm talking about visitors from abroad. And those who do test positive, they are taken to a quarantine hospital. In both scenarios, we cover the cost of accommodation, of food, of drink, of medication. Why? Because people should not have to worry about who is going to take care of them if something goes wrong. If something goes wrong, we are here to take care of them. We cover that cost, so it's not going to be an additional expense on someone's holiday. And then I feel that there will be a lot of goodwill between the customer and the hotel they were staying at, or the airline they had booked with, so that there are going to be changes in a flexible way to the normal booking. So I feel, Dimitrios, that taking everything into consideration, we have taken decisions based on reasonable risk. And even in the case when things might go wrong for a small amount of people, we are ready to take care of them and handle accordingly. So in all honesty, I feel quite confident about the system we have in place.
That's fantastic. And the leadership, it's obvious. I've got to share with you that yesterday I had my first pint on a pub, because the pubs opened on Monday and everybody was so desperate to get a pint. And we went out to the pub. And I think one of the most important things that we found in this year is to understand how important tourism is, and understand how important it is to travel and to get together with the people that we care about, and to look into different places in different cultures. I think people are desperate around the world to travel, and I think those countries that they are prepared to actually open and develop tourism safely, they will gain main benefits. One of the things that obviously in the UK we're quite advanced as far as vaccination is concerned, and hopefully now they've just opened the 45 years plus. So a lot of people have already done the first vaccine, and quite of the older generations have done the second one as well. So a lot of people will be traveling, and I hope that those people who have got the 2 vaccines will be traveling for a long period of time, because there's something that's called revenge traveling, which means that people would like to cover up the time that they didn't spend last year to do them this year. So I think, Minister, you should be prepared to welcome some people for a month rather than 2 weeks, the normal kind of 2 weeks. And I think we need to have a flexibility in terms of the airlines and the tour operators on the way that we are packaging things. And those hoteliers that they are listening to us, I think they should bring out different packages that will enable long-term kind of visitors, and also digital nomads, and those people who would like to escape from their house and come to Cyprus and spend some nice time. I'm keen to bring Panos into the discussion and bring a little bit on the conversation about MICE and the conference and the incentives, because this is a market that's a very particular it's a very lucrative market, and several countries has done fantastic job on this, and I've got several kind of ways of dealing with that, because I used to be president of associations and I used to organize conference around the world. But also as a tourism person, I've also been on all sides of this, from conference organizer, from advisor to hotels, from different kind of ways. So I know this area a little bit holistically. And I know, what I didn't say when I introduced you, Panos, is that we grew up together, but we didn't know each other. On all the conferences I used to go as a delegate, your company was providing the translator services 30 years ago, 35 years ago, before I left Greece to come to England. In every technology conference I was going, and there was always a Podimatas translation services, and that's a name that we've had for many, many years. But now, given your experience at the European level, Panos, and your experience in the last year, how do you see conferences going in the future?
First of all, I will try to say that I try to cover some years of my age, but you just explore the reality. I have to mention that let's talk about MICE. MICE, it's something that we need to discuss about the different part of the MICE. MICE, it's the association events, number one. It's also the corporate events, and also are the governmental events and parts. So why we need to focus on marketing and the communication with the 3 different clients. Why? Because after the recovery of the MICE market, the pie is going to be smaller. So if we want, as Cyprus or as Greece, to run and have the same money, the same income that we used to have before 19 and 18, we need to work very, very hard on the communication and the marketing. Why is this? Because all the competition countries are running for the same clients. That means that we have to be first in the line. Number one, do not forget that as we have to do with the association events, congresses, medical congress, etc., we need to bid up to 3 to 6 years before the day of the conference and the event. The corporate events are a little bit more closer to the date, but also we need to convince them that Cyprus and Greece are safe destinations, so we can make a bid for the big corporate organizations and all these kind of things. And for the minister, the third part is going to be the governmental meetings. In Cyprus and in Greece, we don't run after them. They are very, very important, and they can bring very good income to the local market. In every minister, they have its European or international association that if we bid, we can bring this association to Cyprus and Greece. That means that we need to combine our forces, not only for the marketing and the communication of the destination as a destination, but if we can bring directly some business from the governmental part of the events. So I think that the whole MICE in Europe, it's waiting what is going to be on. Up to now, we have only some groups in Cyprus and in Greece from Israel. And I think it's very, very critical. The next period of 1 or 2 months is if everything goes well, then we expect to have the first bids for the end of this year as a strategic start. And then, of course, we're going to be open for 22 and 23.
Panos, all the conference I'm involved in as chairman or, organizer or whatever, they've been postponed or they've gone digital for the time being. And I think for most of 2021, this is what we see. What we see, though, is domestic conferences are opening slowly.
Yeah, you have absolutely right to mention this thing, because one of the cases that we as a company and also as a AV Alliance group, we ran after the hybrid events is that we need to keep the communication that we have with the clients. It's very, very important. That is why we think that we need to focus on the final clients for the next period.
Yeah, but what also can see is that in several countries where they've got a big domestic market, so I was involved with a conference in Austria, I'm involved with a conference in Hong Kong. What they do is they start bringing slowly people back into the conference rooms, and they start getting the conversations going. And then the hybrid model is something that they are using quite a lot. So they can bring the people from abroad that they cannot travel for the time being, or they're afraid to travel. So I think we'll see hybrid model for a while. Having said that, I have to admit that I'm not very convinced about the electronic conferences. We used to go to some of the conference in Cyprus, some other places, and spend 3 days working 18 hours a day. Okay, we were partying a little bit and had something to drink and something to eat from time to time, but it was very active time, meeting all these people and engaging in conversations almost 24/7. When you're online, when you're Zoom, it's easier because you don't have to travel, but actually the level of communication and the level of engagement and the level of discussion is not the same. And I think that's quite good, because that means that a lot of people are gagging to go back to the conference rooms, and they are gagging to go back and have this kind of conversations and see the body language and exchange the authentic kind of exchanges on the things we do. I think business travel will start a little bit earlier, especially if you're trying to go and sell something, and I think conference will be a little bit later on. So although we're talking about mice, I think the meetings as far as business travel is concerned will start earlier. I think the conference will go, international conference will go a little bit further down, and then incentives and exhibitions. Exhibitions will actually probably start earlier than conference, because there's the incentive of selling something. Is this what you see, Minister, from your discussion with the industry in Cyprus?
That's a very good question, Dimitrios. I do feel that the first segments to start is VFR, visiting friends and family. Business travel, you are right, is going to be up there. I think that, yes, there's a lot of people who want to go back to these in-person meetings. I feel that the MICE segment will need to be the most flexible of all the tourism segments, in order to, at least in the medium term, take a piece of the pie, like Panos said. So I absolutely agree with you that nothing can replace face-to-face contact, because, communication, what is the percentage? Is it, I think only 35% is what you talk about. The rest is your body language and how you move your eyes, how you connect with somebody. So that's science, and it's never going to change. So yes, you are right. At the same time, we are seeing also some changes right now. I think the hybrid model, it's not going to replace in-person meetings, but it does give, and this is a good thing, the possibility or the flexibility to somebody to take place in more events than they would otherwise be able to. So normally, those of us who are traveling for business, for an international expo or something like that, you were always able to do maximum, let's say, one per week, or one at the beginning of the week, one at the end of the week. Whereas now, you can still do that in person if you want, but still be able to participate in 2 or 3 other events, whether for networking or as a speaker during the same week. So actually, it will give us the opportunity to add a specific niche into what we already had. And also what I like about the hybrid model is that it gives events companies and specific events the opportunity to attract a lot of speakers that maybe otherwise they would not be able to attract. So if, let's say, in today's event, we wanted to have a speaker from the US, it would be very easy to do that, whereas otherwise, before the pandemic, we wouldn't even think that this would give value to the audience. We would think, okay, let's invite that person, and then that person, he or she, would need to travel from the US, spend a couple of days flying, a couple of days on the way back, and basically that's 4 out of 5-6 days a week, which is not productive at all. So this will give us the opportunity as destinations, and you, of course, Panos and companies like yourselves, to open up the scope of the speakers and bringing people with different type of expertise from very far away. And that creates additional knowledge and increases the level of interest and maybe participation, which then obviously companies and destinations can monetize, because nobody ever said that a hybrid meeting should give away the digital part of the event for free. That's not the way it goes. So there are opportunities there in this way, and I believe in it a lot. And also in the incentive segments, strictly speaking, maybe not something that has to do 100% with what we're talking about today, but I do see companies, especially companies that have allowed their staff to work from home, using this concept of a getaway in a particular destination, in a particular hotel, where staff from maybe around the world or different offices which have not had the opportunity to meet in person a lot over the last few months, that maybe now it's going to be an additional incentive for the whole team to travel somewhere in a sort of bubble with tests, with the relevant protocols and procedures, to do some business as usual meetings, but in a new type of environment, in a destination, maybe with their families, etc. So there are opportunities out there for sure.
Absolutely. Before I go to Panos to talk about hybrid events, I'd like to, first of all, tell the audience that they can ask any questions they like, and we are more than happy to take questions and respond to them. Please do that in your system, and we're going to bring them here. And the second thing I want to tell you is that there's a keynote. I've managed to do 3 keynotes in a day. And that is, and once I've done 2 keynotes in parallel. In 2 different conferences, I was participating with 2 different computers, which this is kind of impossible to do in the past. That probably changes the way that we are doing things, and it's going to give opportunities, and it's going to give also some challenges. And I think those destinations who are prepared for those kind of, and those individuals actually who are prepared to operate in this kind of flexible environments, and you need agility. We are going away from planning and long-term kind of things. The long-term planning now is 1 or 2 weeks maximum, and we need agility, and we need to be able to do things in different ways. I think nobody has done more hybrid events than Panos, and actually he turned around his business model, and he has created a fantastic studio in Athens, where he's doing a whole range of different kind of events. And I'd like to take some of his expertise to see how he's doing this.
First of all, Mr. Minister and Dimitrios, I want to say that hybrid events, it's not virtual events. Nobody likes the virtual events. We're boring about the Zooms, about all these kind of little windows that came in our lives. We want to have something different. It's very, very important. And also, the hybrid event is going to be a tool for the real events also. It's very, very important to focus that the target is going to be to bring everybody together, to have real meetings. And the hybrid events will work as a completely very nice tool to bring more people here. So using the protocols of COVID-19, we can have, even in the hotels or in other studios, a staging, an event that can bring all the very important speakers from all around the world, as Mr. Minister says before. And why is the hybrid event is so important? It's important because they are going to be connected to the real meetings afterwards to expand the capability of the rooms and of the areas of the MICE. So if we learn to work with this technology, and if we have a room, for example, 500 people, with the hybrid events, we can have thousands of people. So if we have, one very interesting speaker, we can open the doors of the events for many, many other attendees to be present. And some other reasons why the hybrid events are very, very important. Why? Because of the communication and the marketing. If we are not doing hybrid events now, we lose the communication, the daily communication that we need with the clients. This period is the period that we speak almost every day with all the international clients that we have to share about the feelings, about the way that we think that the market will go. And finally, we make a small hybrid event just to be hot for the starting of the MICE market. Also, we need to have our teams ready. I need to tell you that it's very, very important, the psychological part of our teams, of the teams of the hoteliers, everybody who works in a hotel, in the PCOs, in the DMCs, even the ministers, and for us, also for us, the AV and the event companies. Why? Because people that they don't work or they have months to go to the office, they really will need some time for the recovery. And this is also very, very important. So with hybrid events, we stay the personnel active, which is very, very important. Another thing also is that with these technologies, the technology went far away. We expand the technology. Every 2 weeks, we have meetings with the technicians all around the world with the AV Alliance to discussing about the new technologies and what will market will bring. All these technologies will stay in the future meetings. And as Mr. Minister mentioned before, do not forget that the incentive and the corporate market is going to act more fast. That means that in a couple of months, 3 months, 4 months, we have to be ready and present to make the presentations, to let them come in Cyprus, in Greece. And also, you know that with this technology, of course, we can go all around the areas and we can expand up to thousands of people. So if there is a congress of 10,000 attendees that before it was completely impossible to come in Cyprus or in Greece, now with these technologies, we can host 2, 3, 4,000 and the rest they can attend with a hybrid event.
So that gives us great opportunities to do different things and do things in parallel. I had a question that came through my friends in Cyprus, and they said, look, okay, that's great, but what do we do? You know, I'm a hotelier and I would like to be able to bring the MICE market back. And what comes in mind, some of my collaborators in Cyprus, you know, it's not a secret. I collaborate with Aliathon Resort, and I've worked with different organizations like Aphrodite Hills and different people in Cyprus where they've got fantastic facilities, and especially those organizations and hotels and services that they've got a lot of space will probably be the first ones that they're going to come back and recover some of the market, because they've got the space to actually do that with more distance. Is there any particular plans, Minister, for Cyprus and for this particular market? And do you collaborate with the conference organizers and those people who are attracting conferences to have some specific plans for this market?
That's a great question. Well, Cyprus has a convention bureau, which is under the auspices and the support of the Deputy Ministry of Tourism. We have a lot of associations which are members of that. And to be honest, a lot of work has been put in over the last year to communicate better, to have everybody on the same page, to have everybody on board. And one of the things that the ministry has launched, we've launched a new incentive scheme for MICE, especially for events. And this has always existed, but we have moved very quickly and in a flexible manner so that we include in there for the expenses that the ministry covers a hybrid version as well. So if you're having an event in Cyprus, and let's say up to the pre-COVID age, you were getting X amount, and now because of COVID, you will be able to get financial support additionally if you have a hybrid aspect to your event. So we have seen this trend, and we have made sure to include it and implement it in our incentive schemes, so that we can give this push going forward. Because, and to answer the question specifically to the hotelier you were mentioning, yes, there are still destination protocols in place. You cannot just take a space and ram it with people. So anyway, you will have a lower per square meter occupancy of that space compared to what you were used to in the past. So bearing that in mind, a good way to cover up for that revenue or make up for that revenue is maybe a hybrid version. So we incentivize that, we support it so that things can start rolling. Another thing that we have done, and it's actually coming out pretty soon, we are adding an element to several other of our incentive schemes, which concerns digital marketing. So we are aware, and it's obvious now, that marketing has gone mainstream in a digital sense. A lot of what happens digitally. And we will be supporting that aspect of events or businesses as well. We will be supporting the cost of doing digital marketing as long as it's targeted, as long as there's SEO involved, as long as there are proper professional companies behind that. I'm not talking now about bringing somebody in who is employed by a hotel, let's say, or a travel agency and paying for that person's salary. No, that's not what I mean. I mean being able to cover the cost of a tourism business collaborating with a professional digital marketing agency. And this is really, really important, not only because of the know-how that these agencies have, but in terms of the content that can and should be created. We have moved on now. Content cannot be the same as it was in the past. So we are supporting that aspect too. The third thing that is going to happen in the next couple of months, our new image, our new branding, our new logo as a destination is coming out. Actually coming out at the exact time. It was meant to come out last year, but then the pandemic happened. So we said, okay, let's pause and see how this goes. So we're launching that in a couple of months. And there is going to be an aspect of that logo which can be customized specifically for mice. So
is there anything else you can share? We got you talking about marketing. Is there anything else you can share for the industry that is following us?
Well, yes, we feel that the destination itself has an opportunity to completely revitalize the way it does marketing. We have really gone very much towards the digital direction. You know, at the end of the day, we've had to replace, like all destinations, the travel shows, the fairs, the expos, the physical materials which people can no longer have. We've had to replace that with digital marketing. So I have to say that we are collaborating very, very closely with a lot of big players in the social media spectrum, obviously on search engines, OTAs, of course, and a lot of other companies, because I think that's very, very important. We spend wisely, but we are spending a much larger amount of money today than we were in the past on digital marketing. And actually, this year, the biggest ever digital marketing campaign of Cyprus as a destination is taking place. It started on the 1st March, on the day that the destination opened. It's ongoing, and the content is completely new, completely fresh. We try to show all these wonderful things that Cyprus can be known for. And I think it's very, very important. And I'm very proud, and we all are at the ministry. We are very proud of giving opportunities to young content creators who are based locally. So yes, of course, the internet has given us all the opportunity to collaborate with international companies abroad, world-class companies, world-class influencers, etc. That's fantastic. It has broadened our horizons, and it has given us a lot of know-how, brought in a lot of ideas. But at the end of the day, we're here as well to support the local community. And I'm very proud that as a ministry, we have done that. We have collaborated with tens of local small companies in Cyprus for the content, for the creation of our content over the last 12 months. And I think that this creates an element of community, we know that they love the destination. We know that they know the secrets of the destination. I'm talking in terms of the beauties, the beautiful elements that we have. So it's a win-win situation. They're excited to work with us. They're getting a lot of exposure themselves. We, from our side, we get a lot of fresh ideas, a lot of excitement. So, yeah, I mean, we've turned the page as a destination, and the future is digital, and the future is very exciting in terms of marketing.
And of course, this is a very authentic and real content that the local people are bringing. And I've always been an advocate of that. Just bring the real content, and also get your customers to actually create the content for you. And that's something that we've worked a lot in Cyprus to achieve. And when the customers start bringing all this wonderful news about you, you are winning double the time. I like to bring Panos in because I kind of feel that there's a change in the business model, if you like. And in the past, companies like yours, Panos, will be a service provider. So you'll be paid a fee, normally a fixed fee, to provide services. But now I see a lot of companies like yourself that they are coming like a partners with sharing, profit sharing, and engaging in a business way with the conference organizers. So I can see a lot of movements around Europe going that way. Is that something that you see as well?
Yes, first of all, before I answer this question, I have to say to Mr. Minister that the same way that they react with the young people in Cyprus government, we did the same also in Greece in our companies. The fresh minds are very, very important to take the technology one step forward. It's very, very important. So, compare the international market, Dimitrios, I have to say, as a proud member of AV Alliance Group and Congress Delta Network Group, we establish a communication that we run the technologies all together, step by step. So that means that if someone of us has a good idea and tries to make something better in hybrid events and something extremely nice for the mass market, all of us will share the information and we go to the next step. That's why, if you can see behind me, there is a 3D room that it's a hybrid event that we use to use as a platform, new way of platform. And now we try to work in the real hotel and MICE areas platforms. And that means with a 360 hybrid technology, we are trying to bring the same hotel to be part of the hybrid event. That means that the attendee in the very near future, in the next 1 or 2 months, I think, will go to the same hotel that the hybrid event it take place, that probably it's full of the attendees that can join the hotel, and then with the capability to go to this platform, they have the opportunity for thousands more people and 1,000 square meters to have another exhibition area will join the same event. So the technology flies, and we use also the fresh new minds that exist, because are the only ones who take the technology up to the next step.
Well, the young people are digital natives. They were born with technology, and anybody who is less than 30 years old, they've always had technology in their lives. I keep telling my students that I got my first mobile phone when I was 30 years old, and they cannot really understand how I survived 30 years without a mobile phone. They get theirs when they are 6 years old or 7 years old. And I said, yes, life can happen. And then I keep talking to them about the telex with the dots that none of you remember because you're much younger than I am. But this is the new generations are coming, they're digital natives and they are embedded with technology, and therefore they'll kind of operate in many different ways. I think we're reaching towards the end of this session, and I know the time flies and we're almost here for an hour. I think we've established several things. I think the mice market is one of the most important kind of markets and segments that we see. I think we will see leisure travelers flying first, and VFR, as the minister said earlier, visiting friends, relatives will be the segment that's going to go first, and then the segment that's going to go second is the business travelers and those people who will be chasing money. Basically, they'll be chasing the sales of different things, and gradually we'll see conference and we'll see some of the other segments. I think the digitization that has happened in the last year has kind of progressed us to 5 to 10 years, and it's here to stay. But equally, we found out that we really want the physical world to operate, and we really want the physical contact with people and to be able to travel and engage with different people and different kind of contexts in order to be much more effective. And I think, I really admire your leadership, Minister, because you're taking Cyprus fast forward in this race. And it's a race, really, that we need to kind of experience. And we see that all over the world. I hope that the situation with the vaccinations progresses in Europe faster. We see already the benefits in the UK of the vaccination. We see them in other countries as well. I'd like to give you a couple of minutes to kind of bring your final thoughts together before we finish. Minister?
Dimitrios, thank you very much for your kind words. Before I say that, it has been a pleasure to be here with you and Panos and our guests, of course. My final comment is related to something you just said. Yes, as a ministry, we are moving, we're trying to move as fast as we can, not only to keep up. Keeping up is not enough for me. We need to be proactive. And especially the MICE segment has traveled forward 10 years. Tourism as a whole as well. But the MICE segment has traveled forward 10 years, and even though we are all under enormous pressure because of the pandemic, especially both at work and private lives, one of the positives of the pandemic is that it has given us the push that we all needed into the digital world. But now is the time to really invest in it. Now is the time to look forward. Yes, I understand that it's not the easiest thing for some people, for some companies, but it needs to be done. And still I see, even, almost a year and a half after this pandemic started, I see companies still being reluctant to take that step, still being reluctant to open up those new doors, still being reluctant to look at those new markets, those new special forms of tourism. We need to do it. Tourism is not going to be the same as it was before. Yes, maybe we will reach those numbers one day, but the mix, the clientele mix, the source market mix, the type of tourism, all of that is going to look different. So if anybody is expecting that we're going to wake up one day and everything is going to be the same as it was, it's not. So we all need to show flexibility, forward thought, and bravery. That, Dimitrios and Panos, is from me the final comment. Obviously, I'm staying to hear your final comments as well, but in case I don't get another chance to thank you, I thank you very, very much for your insight, for your open-mindedness. I thank our organizers today for this event. Not only the panel, but everything that came before this, and also tomorrow. And that's a great first step for Cyprus. This is the first time that we have arranged a digital event like this, especially in the MICE segment. May we have many, many, many more.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister. Panos, your final words?
My final words has to do with all of us. I strongly believe that we have to be ready. to be number one in the line. The next period is going to be a difficult period for the mice industry. That's why we need to do three things. Number one, communication with the clients, marketing of the destination all the time, every day. Marketing, it's something that we need to work every day. And after that, sales of the destinations, service of the services that we provide. And also, keep in mind, do not afraid of the technology, but use the technology as a tool to bring the market, the mice market in our destination. It's very, very important. If we don't do this, the other markets will do so. And it's very, very important to take as much as bigger piece of the pipe that is going to be smaller the first years. That means that we need to be ready all the time. This is number one. Number two, we need to prepare our teams, our groups. We have to be healthy, not only but also psychological healthy. The period is very difficult for the psychology of us. We have to be ready and good for the employees and the teams. If we are not good, they are not going to feel good also. So my last suggestion, prepare our teams, do the marketing, communication, and we're going to be the real winners of the next period of the mice after the COVID period.
Thank you, Panos. Let me conclude by saying solidarity and humanity. You remember when COVID started last year, I started shouting, brace, brace, brace. I could see the danger. And I said, look, there are a lot of people under danger here. So we need to show solidarity and humanity. We need to stick together and we need to operate together. And there are a lot of people in our industry that are in extremely difficult situations. We need to bring all of us together so we can be in the next day. We are not going to go back to 2019. We are going to go to 2023 and eventually with a horizon 2030. I think we really need to start. It's an opportunity to start looking to 2030. And it's an opportunity to take the new tools forward and develop our competitiveness and to move forward. Let's be honest with ourselves. Not everybody will survive this, but it's the professionals who will survive. And I think we really need to give the opportunities to everybody to be able to survive and go forward. And we can do that through collaborations, through partnerships, what we call virtual organizations, concentrate on the things that we are very good at and leave other things to people that they are good at. I think it's critical to remind everybody that after the storm, there is rainbow. And Cyprus is not a stranger to difficult situations and crises. And over the years, you have demonstrated how you come out of the crisis much stronger. And I think that will be another opportunity to actually do that. Nobody has chosen to be in this crisis situation around the world. But now we are in there, I think with humanity and solidarity, we'll get out of there and we'll be stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.